Welcome back, Barbarians. We're back with another episode of the Blue Collar Barbarians podcast, brought to you by the Blue Collar Barbarians Network. And I get to talk to you or share a story with you from a friend of mine, Paul, Mr. Paul McCarty from The Ultimate Pursuit. Let me tell you about this dude before he says anything. He is a killer. He is constantly grinding in the outdoors, creating entertaining content. It's somebody that I personally have been following for, probably 5 or 6 years now. And somebody that I've seen not only crush it in the outdoor space, but also take the time to develop himself within his career. He's now got his kids out there with him. Paul, you're constantly innovating, man. I got a deep respect for you, bro. Welcome to the Barbarians podcast.
Well, I appreciate it. And thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Like I was telling you before we hit record, this podcast is not for average folks. This is for people that I think exhibit traits of tenacity and grit. And you are certainly that kind of person. And I can't wait to dive into what it was like building a brand and kind of your work history, dude, as you're kind of a jack of many trades. Before we get started, though, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor. This show today is brought to you by Alpha Country Training and Nutrition. Alpha Country is owned by my friend Spencer. Spencer is a former 7th Group guy, an Army SF dude, and let me tell you what he's building. He's building a community that truly cares, and a community that wants to see other like-minded men and women that are just savages, that refuse to quit, grow. I would check out their pre-workout. It's Bangalore. I have the guava, watermelon, lime guava myself, but they got peach tea, they got sour gummies, and they got some new flavors on the horizon. So be sure to check out Alpha Country Training and Nutrition for all your supplement needs. Paul, my man, jumping right in. Let's get into your background, bro.
Okay, so I started out working at a glue lamb manufacturing plant, basically. So if you don't know what a glue lamb is, basically they take boards, they glue them all together, run through a giant microwave, and it makes a big beam. So they make power poles out of them, fancy arches, and headers for windows. You'll see them in construction. So that's basically what a glue lamb is. So it was a lot of hard labor. Boards had come out with this creosote style glue on them. You grabbed a hold of it and threw it on the next one. So you're literally just throwing boards all day and then running a big air gun, running these big long 10-foot long bolts. It was pretty caveman, if you will. But yeah, I did that for quite a while, and then I worked my way up when I worked there into a supervisor job on night shift, doing the finish side. So I ran that whole department, planed the boards, filled the holes, wrapped them, sent them out, forklift, all that good stuff. And I thought that was going to be my career. I worked there for I think 5 years-ish. And then one night I get a call. Hey, don't come to work tomorrow. Mill burnt down. I was like, what? I thought it was a joke, It's funny because the guy I worked with that night, they were running really slow, and they actually had the millwrights working with us because it was during the housing slowdown. We were barely working. And he made a comment about it burning down that night. And I actually never told anybody about this, but then I get a call that next day. So I drove up there. I went and looked, and sure enough, it was burnt to the ground. So overnight, everything I'd worked towards and built and the relationships and everything I'd learned, boop, gone. So I was like, and then the housing market was in the dumps at that point. So everybody was laid off. So I was kind of screwed.
So you had the worst possible scenario at the worst possible time with the worst possible outcome. Just literally had the rug, gone.
Totally. So, yeah. And I don't remember, I think I just had my first kid. I think I just had my son, or was about to just about to have my first son. But anyways, so yeah, just had a kid, so I was like, or on the verge of it, and yeah, I was like, what am I gonna do, And then of course, not working, so the bank's calling saying they're gonna repossess my pickup, and stuff got real rough for a while there, and then my brother had actually gotten a job working railroad construction. So I was hungry. I was like, I was applying everywhere, anywhere that I could find, and I wasn't getting calls. And finally, I got an in with my brother and got on doing railroad construction. And it was on the road, working here, there, and everywhere. But I had to do something, so left the family at home and off I went to go learn how to build railroads.
So you went from a glue lamb factory to railroad.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah,
one knuckle dragging job to the next.
pretty much. Yeah. And it was a whole change of pace because, where I'd come to work, it was inside for the most part, but it was production. It was like as fast as you could pump the stuff out, you got bonuses. It was good. To working out in the weather, year round, hot, cold, freezing, -30, wind blowing, didn't matter, So just the weather part of it. I mean, I'm an outdoorsman. I'm used to being outside anyways, but some of it was pretty rough. We went and did a job in Boise, and we had to leave all our equipment running all night long. Otherwise, it would freeze. It was so cold. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that like, being on the railroad, being on the road?
Yeah, so it was definitely a change of pace for me because I had always, been able to go home every night. So, you spent your week working with your crew, which pretty much became your family. We were all we were all cheap, so because work was scarce, we all got one room, and then some of us would sleep on the floor, and top ramen, frozen burritos. Like, we tried to stay as cheap as we could so we could bring as much home, to our families as we could. So we really were frugal in that department, And yeah, it was a whole new world for me because I didn't know anything about dirt work or any of that or any of the parts. It's just like learning how to do anything. You got to learn the tools and what everything's called. And so they sent me to go get a rail stretcher one day. Always the joke, go get the board stretcher. I was like, no, not getting me. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Oh, it is.
A rail stretcher is a real
stretcher's
thing.
real.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It stretches the two rails closer together so you can get the bolts in. So I thought they were messing with me, but no, it's a real thing.
No kidding.
But yeah, and I really enjoyed it once I learned how to, learn just like anything. Once I got the green off me, if you will, because everything was a competition, and I'm a kind of a competitive person, right? So we were always like, I can hit the spikes in with 2 hits or whatever. I can hit more anchors on than you. So it was me, my brother, another guy I'd grown up with, and a couple other guys that I'd worked with. And yeah, so everything was a competition for us. And that's just how I am. It's my personality a little bit. I always want to try to do better, and at least myself. I may not do better than everybody, but I sure as hell gonna try.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real, bro. Society today is trying to breed out competition and trying to kill it. And it's weak as fuck. Excuse my language, but just to be frank, like, it's weak as fuck.
100%.
And it is a competition. Like, life is a competition. Like, legitimately, it is. Now, that being said, you can choose not to compete, or you could choose to lose in competition, but you are competing with someone. That doesn't mean
100%.
that needs to become your identity. And I think a lot of people get lost on that. But like, I like that you're owning, like, I am competitive. That's how it's supposed to be. Like, think about like your primal innate desires in life. It's not to come last. You know what I mean? Like, you're not like, oh, everybody else should eat. And then you're like, no, I'm hungry. I need to eat. Like, that's how your
Yeah.
mind works. Like, I'm hungry. I should eat. Not, maybe all the little birdies in the nest should eat. And then I guess if there's anything left, I can eat. Now, listen, you could be empathetic and you could be thoughtful, but let's be real. You are supposed to be crushing. That is your innate desire, is to win and to eat and to do things at scale, like innate inside of you. So own that puppy, Paul. Own it. Because my brother, I think we need to embrace that more.
Agreed.
Long past the days of the soft bullshit, hide how you really are. No. You didn't get everything that you've got by sitting on the bench. You know what I mean?
100%.
So sorry to interrupt you there. I just want to interject. Like, I think it's beautiful that you can embrace that. Fuck yeah, run with that, you know?
Yeah, and I agree. More people need to be that way, because when it comes time to, say, get a promotion, this guy's going to be the foreman to this guy. It's this guy that wanted to win, has been showing he wants to win. He's going to get it. And this guy that's over here that's been, just kind of idling along, he ain't getting it,
Nope.
And then, like, you also got to think about after it.
Yeah, exactly that. And you also got to think about what life serves you. If you're not going to go and get it, life's not just going to give you what you want. Like, you want that new house, you're not just going to get given it. I know they try to say, like, that the big government likes to give everything away right now, but you're not going to get your dreams. They're not just going to be dumped in your lap. You literally have to execute and execute and execute and execute. And that comes with failures and setbacks and pain and heartache, and everything under the sun comes with that. But if you could change your mind and you could turn that failure into feedback, you're rocking, buddy. Now you're cooking with bacon. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So on the railroad thing, did you end up then running work? Because I think, didn't you become a supervisor in that as well? I mean,
so we kind of, in certain areas, we did a lot of different hats. So we would put in new rail yards for chemical plants and industries, ports, stuff like that. We did like thermite welding, which is where basically you put two rails close to each other. You dump this molten magma in there, basically. It's like 3,000 degrees, and it turns the rail to one, right? So we had a crew where we did that. I was kind of ahead of that for a little while. They moved me around a lot because I was versatile. I could. Yeah. That's the first thing. I was like, "Can I run the equipment?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." I give them a lot of credit, because if you wanted to learn, they're like, "Yeah, hop on it, try it out. We'll teach you. Just go drive it around, figure it out." So I was like, "Okay." So yeah, I learned to run anything they had, the dump truck, the loader, backhoe, whatever. I was always, let me try it, Yeah. And so I became versatile because I wasn't afraid to try things. And that's a big thing that I feel like a lot of people nowadays have a problem with. They won't try because they're afraid to fail. You're going to fail. That's part of it. And that's how we learn. So fuck it up and find out.
Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way.
Right? Yep, absolutely. So I never was like a quote unquote foreman. But anytime they needed somebody to kind of be in charge of something, hey, we need this done. Like, I'd get set on that usually. And I didn't care which crew I worked with. We had a crew of Hispanic guys, and then we had a crew that was mostly white guys, right? And, and I would work with either group, and they always I laughed. They called me Rana. They called me Frog, because I was always jumping around. So they called me Rana.
That's
but
cool.
Yeah, and I would work with, I didn't care, I was wanting, I learned so much stuff from those guys, because they'd been doing it a long time, and they were hardworking SOBs. Yeah. And they just had a little different way of doing stuff, and I just took a little bit from every crew I worked on, and I just put it on me, and then I felt like that just added to my little tool belt, if you will. I had little tricks that other guys didn't have because they never worked with those guys. So I feel like being versatile in your environment is very, very important.
I think there's something to be said about those guys that are Swiss Army knives, like what you're describing as well, dude. Because like those are the guys that when layoffs come are typically last.
Yeah.
That's the guy that also will be first considered for promotion because you can utilize him anywhere. It's also going to set you up to be the guy that's more risk adherent, meaning that you'll take a little bit more risk in sense of, hey, all these guys are comfort or a little backing up. All these guys are creatures of comfort. So I know that they're not going to want to take that crew that travels, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Whereas if you're that guy that jumps around or use them here, this or that, they're like, hey, we're doing up this same new division and we need a guy, like you're going to be out of town for 6 weeks, unfortunately, but you're the perfect guy, dude. I know you can do this and that, and we need somebody like you. Are you up for it? Are you ready? Like, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, the try thing. So being that multi-tool, that multitasking SOB, as you put it, like that makes you more attractive for leadership opportunities as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you going back to the on the road thing. So my biggest thing with being on the road was you were gone all week, you were home one day, and then basically your other half of your next day was getting ready to leave again. So, and with a new kid, that was real hard on the family life. The wife would call you when you're gone. Hey, I got a flat tire. You'd have to call your brother or your friend. Hey, my wife's broke down the side of the road. Can you go help her? So that was my only the only caveat to working on the road that I didn't care for. I liked all the camaraderie. I didn't mind the work. I liked the travel, seeing different parts of the Northwest because we worked in Idaho, Oregon, a little bit of California, all over in Washington. So yeah, it was good to branch out and, get to see the country a little bit.
Yeah, no, I could only imagine. So how long did you do that for?
So I think I did the construction side for like 4 years-ish. And then towards the tail end of that, it started to slow down. Like a lot of the government-funded projects, which is a lot of the rail infrastructure, kind of started to go to the wayside because a lot of it we did was ports, chemical plants, and like mills, stuff like that. So there was government money to build up their infrastructure, Well, that kind of went away and we were starting to get slow and get laid off. And there was a local short line in the next town over that we'd done a ton of work for. So we were in there all the time. We fixed stuff for them and I got to know the bosses and stuff in there. So they had an opening. I applied there and they'd seen my face in there enough times. And I got the job. My boss actually gave me a reference. He was like, I really hate to see you go, man, but this is a good fit for you. And we don't have much work for you right now. So props to Marty for putting in a good word for me. I mean, a lot of bosses won't do that, like, hey, I'm going to lose one of my good guys. I know you're going to hire him. So yeah, props to Marty. And there are a lot of bosses that won't do that. So I got that job and it was kind of dual purpose. They run a train crew, a switching yard. So they switch out cars all day long. And then they had a maintenance department as well. So, and the way it worked is you kind of worked on both as a new guy. I think they call it the extra board. So you would work the train, whatever shift it worked out to be. And the crappy part was when I got hired, even though I was the only one with experience, they did it with our social security numbers. There's 4 of us that got hired the same day. I got the lowest man on the totem pole for seniority. And I was the only one that worked with railroad at all. So I was like, it sucks, whatever. But it is what it is. It's how it worked out. So, so I go and so I'm getting all the bottom of the work, right? So if anybody doesn't want it, I have to do it no matter what. So I was working on the trains during, like, I'd work graveyard, and the way it works is like hours of service for a truck driver, same concept. I could only work so many hours, and then I had to have so many hours off. But if I worked on the maintenance department, that didn't count. So I could work night shift on the train, and they're like, oh, we need you to come in and do maintenance at 4 a.m. So I literally go home, sleep for an hour or two, whatever it was, or go right into working on the maintenance department. And then I'd have to have a whole day off afterwards. But yeah, that's its own thing, the hours of service thing. But yeah, so it was a whole different ball game. And I think my wife was pregnant with my daughter, so my second child at that point. And so, yeah, it was kind of a crazy time for me. I was working nights, I was working days, I was sleeping, I wasn't sleeping, I didn't know what day it was. So when I first got started, it was pretty chaotic. And let's see, I don't know how far into me working there. I think it was 6 or 8 months I'd been working there, and my roadmaster, which is like the guy that does the track inspections and all that kind of stuff. Well, apparently he wasn't doing the necessary repairs on the track side. We had like four derailments or 5 derailments in 2 days. And so corporate flies out, takes him, he leaves. And they're like, hey, you're the only one that knows anything about doing this, that wants to do it. So we got to get these trains on the back up. So I literally worked there for 6 months. I know a lot about track maintenance and stuff like that, but I haven't dealt with derailed cars much at all. So I'd start getting on the phone and calling the crane companies and rolling over cars, and because it was just a mess, you know. And I think we worked 20-something hours straight. I don't remember, to get everything back under control. And then they're like, well, here you. Then they posted his job a little while later, and I applied for it, and a couple other people did, but I was the one that had the most experience, so I got it, which was a little bit funny because there was a lot of senior people there. They didn't want the job. They were fine working on the trains, but now they're listening to the new guy when they're working on the maintenance side, you know, and I was quite a bit younger than all of them. So it was definitely a weird culture thing at first.
Yeah.
At first. So
isn't that funny though? People don't want opportunity, but then somebody else steps into it and they got a problem with who's running what. It's like so backwards. Don't be like that, by the way, if you're listening to this audience. Like if you're not the one that had the balls to step up and do it, don't give the guy grief that's doing it. Like, either step up, it's you or it's not you. And that's the way you need to approach everything in life. Either you're going to, or it's going to be somebody else.
100%. And the big thing is, I think, is if you're not going to take it, help that person. Because if you help them, it's helping you because you work under them, right? If you make their life harder, they're going to make your life harder. I've been in both buckets, I guess, to where I've stepped up and then had all the senior people above me and dealt with that culture change. And then the same thing, I've let it slide by me and be like, hey, I'll do whatever it takes to help you be successful, because it's just going to make things better on me. Because if you're a good boss, I can be a good employee, everybody's happy, you know.
100%.
So I think that's a mentality people need to have and harness with management, I guess, right? You either want it or you don't, and that's great. If you don't want it, your heart isn't into it, don't take it, because that's the worst thing, is having a manager that hates their life and doesn't want to do their job, you know.
Yeah. No.
So,
for sure.
But a little while into it, kind of mellowed out. Like, everybody realized, you know, hey, this new guy, he's trying to do good. You know, he's trying to get everything organized, because it was a different company before, and it got bought out by this new corporation. And so I had to go through and organize everything, the yard, all their inspection stuff, you know, just start over pretty much. I'm like, we're just going to clean all this crap up. We're going to go through all the tracks and try to get everything up to snuff and up to regulation. And we did all the track inspections for all the plants within our territory. We had like 25 miles of track and I think 111 switches, and we served, I don't remember, 7 or 8, 10 different customers. Hauled garbage up to the dump and some chemical plants, stuff like that. So and then with them too, their tracks were not in great shape. So I had to work with all the customers and get their stuff up to snuff and be like, hey, we don't want to be putting trains on the ground anymore. Like, no more of this. And it was kind of a thing before past practice, right? It happens, right? Well, we weren't gonna do that anymore. This is the new standard, right? And the federal guys kind of started to put more rules on us as well, which pushed a lot of that. So we got all that fixed up, and I worked there for, let's see, 3.5, 4 years. So a roadmaster, the railroad industry as a whole is very cutthroat. If something happens, someone's getting fired. That's just how it is. They've been around for so long. There's so many rules. I mean, hundreds of years the railroad industry's been around. So if something happens, that's how it works. You don't get disciplined. He's out. Somebody's getting fired, typically. And we had that new company come in, and they were doing a thing called efficiency testing. So they would watch us with binoculars in their trucks and listen to us on the radio, literally spy on us. So, and it got pretty bad, and the bosses had to have so many fails a month. Like, they were like cops with radar guns. So you get so many fails and you're getting fired. And I was at the point where I was doing good at my job, but with just the management style they had, I was afraid to answer my phone. Like, always my gut would drop when the phone would ring. And I was on call 24/7, people calling all hours of the night because they work graveyard, so I get calls all the time. So it was just a real stressful situation. So in that, I was like, I seen the writing on the wall. Like, I can't survive here forever. Eventually, no matter how good I do, something's going to happen and I'm going to get the axe. That's just the culture. And they were hunting people down during that era. I guess it's gotten better. I still have friends that work there, but yeah. So I left, and got a job at a mill, which I thought, so my railroad job was my retirement job number one, because it used to be owned by a different company, and everybody I knew was like, loved it. And it was this great job. And I'm like, cool. So I finally get this my dream job. I'm like, yes, I can retire here. And so I get that. It's not, the new company buys it. It's not a retirement job anymore. I don't think I can live there for 30 years and get retired without getting fired for something. So I leave there, go to this mill, and that was real short-lived. Once again, it was within the same facility as the railroad. So I knew the whole plant. I knew where everything was. I knew a lot of the people. And yeah, one of the managers there, I don't know what his deal was. He didn't like me. That's the only thing I can say. I've never been fired from a job before, and I got fired.
Sometimes it's just an age thing, dude. Sometimes people just don't like younger people, period, the end.
It was the craziest thing, because everybody in this, they hired a bunch of us. One person worked at like Target, and the other person worked at, I think, shoe store, right? I'm the only one that has experience. And we went to do our forklift training. The guy teaching us didn't know how to run the forklift. I was like, oh, I could show everybody. So I show everybody how to use it, whatever. I'm like, oh, well, I've got this job. Like, even the head guy for the plant interviewed me on my interview panel. And he's like, you are way overqualified for this job. And I said, I know, but I got to start somewhere. I'm okay with starting at the bottom. I can work my way back up. And, a lot of people can't do that as well. When you leave a job, you're going to have to start at the bottom. It's just how it is.
Yeah. And let's talk about that for a second, because I guess we'll get into it more after we finish kind of where you're at now. But
yeah,
I think that sometimes a step back is a step, or a step to the side is necessary for a step forward, right? Like, also, the one thing that I will tell you that I'm going through personally that's really been starting to help me is you got to kill your ego. And
100%.
Yeah, and that's hard. And that's hard because you work really hard to develop the skills that you have and to get as good as you do. But there comes a point in time where you just got to let go of like that that skill set is not who you are. So I actually said this in a post today, but where it came from is talking to a friend the other day, and he was just asking me some questions about some of my mindset shifts lately. They just noticed some personal changes that I've made in the way that I just do my life, I execute in life. And I said, and I think you'll appreciate this, Paul, but I said, who you were is not who you are, and who you are is not who you will be. And like, if you can really like just understand that for what it is, like, listen, whatever story of whatever you were is not who you are today. Like what you were, you got to let go of the fucking high school football. You got to let go of lettering as a freshman. You got to let go of being the homecoming king or whatever that is, right? The foreman, or being the best at this, and the fucking college champion. Like, you know, you got to let go of that, because that's who you were is not who you are. And then you also got to understand at the same time that who you are now is not who you will be. You're not in your final form, right? So growth is inevitable, I guess is what I'm saying. So killing your ego, if you can just, I think there's a misunderstanding around like having an ego. I think like if you can learn to help people along the way, it's like you need to be confident in your skill sets of that. Like, don't misplace that. But like, you also got to put to death like the idea that you're there, because you're not. You're until you die, you're evolving. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So what you do when you made that change? Because I know you were just getting ready to talk about that, right? You were getting to the that didn't work out after all that. Overqualified. You took a step back. You built up. You got yourself there, but then you got a shot at your dream job. Is that right?
Kinda. So, you know, when I got fired from the mill, I had to go back to railroad, right? I got to feed my family. So I got a hold of another railroad construction outfit. I got a hold of my old job. They weren't working at the time. They didn't have any openings. So I got a hold of the competitor, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you a job. And it kind of worked out good. They gave me my own truck, computer, and like, hey, you know, you're overqualified to be a grunt. So we're just going to have you go around and do inspections for people and whatever. It's a good gig for a little while. And then I started running a bridge crew, redecking bridges, trestles. Never done that before. They're like, here's this crew. Go redeck a bridge. The guys know what they're doing. I'm like, okay. So I did that for a little while, and I'll never forget it. I was on a bridge in Albany, and I'd gotten a interview at a small public works in my hometown, and I'd been applying at this job since like 2006. Like, I'd been applying there anytime there was an opening. I was like, this would be a sweet job. It's close to my house, good benefits, you know, any state, city jobs, county, whatever. I've applied for a bunch of them over the years. Just real solid retirement jobs.
Yeah.
So I got a call, got an interview, and I go in for the interview. I had felt really good about it. Like, I knew a guy that worked there, a couple of the guys. So I'm like, I think I got this, right? And I get a call, or I think it was a letter saying I didn't get the job. And I was like, damn it. You know, and it's right after I had lost the whole mill job and all that. So I thought, this is my break. And it didn't happen. So I was like, all right, well, let's keep going on the railroad thing, doing the bridge stuff. And I was on that bridge in Albany that day, and I get a phone call from my boss now. And he's like, hey, you know, you probably got another job already, but, you know, we had another opening come open. And I was like, when do you need me there? I throw my tools down right now. And he's like, no, take your 2 weeks or whatever. But yeah, so I gave him my 2 weeks, and I was there a couple weeks later. So now I work for a public works department, so basically a city, and it's a small city. So there's only like 6 of us. So we do water, sewer, streets, paving, concrete, stone, building, landscaping, get cats out of trees, you name it, we do it. So it's kind of a cool gig, really. I call it fixing up my hometown. That's what I
Good.
call it. That's how I feel about it, I guess.
Yeah. And with that, you're doing what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So there's a level of fulfillment, but it's also allowed you the time to work on your own thing.
Yeah. Yep. So,
Right.
yeah, for sure. Because it's nice. I work 410s now. You know, I'm not on the road. I've got more time to do stuff with my family. You know, I've got a short commute. My wife works at the school in town. So, like, it's super nice. If I need to go to my kid's volleyball game, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take off an hour early, go to my kid's volleyball. It's super nice for the family life
Yeah.
aspect, I think. So I can spend that time with them, which allowed me a little extra time to start doing this ultimate pursuit thing on the side, which is something I grew up, you know, I'm a hunter, and I grew up watching like the Born and Raised guys and stuff put out DVDs when I was younger. And I've always thought that was cool, even just to film your own stuff and just have it, you know, and then to kind of start putting it out on YouTube and stuff like that was always something I just kind of, I don't know, interested me, if you will. So yeah, me and my brother started doing that. I think that was 5 years-ish ago, something like that, 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it, I guess. And it was hard in the beginning because I didn't know anything about it. I was like, I don't know. There was a lot of information on the internet, but some of it was conflicting. Do you start things up? I didn't know what to do. So I was a little lost at first.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I think all of us are still lost. We're just hammering down anyways, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's there's a legitimate sentiment to fake it till you make it. Like you just
100%.
you don't you're never going to have all the answers. You're never going to know. Like video is my weakest
Yep.
subject in media, to be honest with you. I don't know why. I should have learned it probably 50 times over now. I mean, dude, I could be busy all year long with video stuff with my contacts, but that's the one element I have not figured out. It doesn't tick for me. I love seeing people's work but I'm more like a visionary. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? So it's hard for me. So I totally get that. Before we dive into that though, I want to ask you just why it's still fresh on our audience's mind. Do you have any suggestions or advice to someone that may be in that spot, that's having to go through what you did, like where you're transitioning careers, or you feel, because there's a point in this where the world lies to you. Let's just call a
Oh
spade a
yeah.
spade, and they tell you it's too late. Like you need to stay in that skill set. You need to stay in that craft. Don't shake things up. Don't change this because you're going to lose this or you're going to lose that or all your seniority. Or so. Do you have anything that you would say to someone that, like me, I'm in the middle of changing careers, right? Like I'm trying to make the jump from the field to management or maybe even into aviation, to be honest with you. I'm looking at that really hard right now. Again, finishing something I put a pin in 12 years ago. But what would you say to those people that are in that place? Because you learned a lot from that's a risk. Let's just say what it is, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest thing is going from knowing everything about your craft to knowing nothing. I think that's the hardest thing for anyone, especially me, because I was like, I know this stuff. I know all the rules. I know every single thing about this, but I don't know nothing about this, but I want to, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to want to. That's the first thing. You can't go in and be the know-it-all. Oh, I used to know everything. Well, you don't anymore. So you need to go in fresh mind. You're the green guy, even though you were good at this. You're not good at this yet, and you need to go in with that open mind. I see a lot of people switch careers, and they have a hard time at first because they can't let go of not being the man anymore, right? You're the greenhorn now, and you need to be a greenhorn. That's just how it is. You got to absorb it from everybody else, and and if you have that attitude, the people will cheat you. But if you don't, they won't, and you won't make it because they're like, this guy thinks he knows everything. Why should we teach him anything? So that is one huge thing, switching. And then secondly, demand, make sure if you're going to switch, make sure it's something that it's not necessarily, it could be something you want to do, but make sure it's in an in-demand field too. I see a lot of people switch careers and I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, there's only like 2 of those, and there's not a lot of business and it's seasonal. So making a good choice is another thing. And it's never too late because I think the guy that invented Walmart? I think he started at 40 or something like that. There's a ton of success.
Yeah.
Yep. A ton of successful billionaires. They didn't start doing nothing until they were 35, 40 years old. And yeah, I'm turning 40 this year. Woo, go me. But yeah, so, that was kind of inspiring for me to see, like, I feel like, oh, I've, done this much in my life, but those guys didn't even start doing that stuff until 35, 40 years old. So it's never too late to start. Yeah. And you got to know when to make that jump too. You got to trust your gut a little bit. That helped me out a little bit. Seeing how the company was going and what was happening in the market and stuff. Like, I don't think this is going to work out for me in the long run. And to at least plan the move a little bit so you're not forced into the move. Like the mill burnt down, I kind of had to figure it out. Like you can't anticipate a fire, right? But yeah, knowing when to make that jump is very important. And then also ask around. Your best thing is ask around, ask your buddies, ask other vendors when you go in, like, hey, the word of mouth is the best way to get into another career. And like, I didn't really know anything like water and sewer. It's a huge industry and they are begging for operators. So any of you guys watching this, look into water and wastewater. If you're looking for a trade, like I get emails every single week from places up, usually around Seattle area, wanting water operators, wanting sewer operators. And once you get on the list, you'll get those emails every week. And a lot of them make like $10 an hour more than I make where I work. But yeah, it's crazy. Like the demand for water and sewer operators, because a lot of the older ones are retiring. And there's no program getting the younger people into this, just like a lot of the other trades.
Yeah. I think it's important also to not be afraid, man. Like the timing is never going to be perfect. Like no. To be clear, it will never be a perfect time to jump ship. Never. Not once. In fact, I would argue that the perfect time to jump is when the conditions are most unfavorable, when you just got that unexpected layoff, when you're broke, when you've had to your family's readjusting their budget and been living off of unemployment for a month now or whatnot because you haven't been working. That is the best time to jump because you're already in that mindset where you will put to death, like you get hungry again, right? It almost is like a re-excitement of where you were when you first started whatever you were good at because you're hungry. It's fight or flight mode. Your back's against the wall. You're ready to go again, woo, you get a little bit of energy.
Oh yeah.
But I also think it's important for people to know that, to keep in mind that, like what you said, with the right attitude, which is everything, that it's not going to take you the decade to get this new skill set that it took you to get your first one. As a human, you can replicate, even though it's something completely new to you, your learning process and how to navigate up and through and up the hierarchy exponentially faster.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. Once you've kind of run that playbook and figured out your skills and figured out what it took you to get there the first time, you're like, oh, I can kind of do the same thing, maybe a little different at this place as I did the first place. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so for those people that are like, maybe think about changing, but it would take me 5 years. Yeah. What would take you 10 years might take you 3 now. Like, let's be real.
Yep.
Because you know all the tricks, and it's just a matter of keeping your attitude right and being willing to learn and knowing when to step up to the plate and swing. I mean, like, legitimately from my experience and watching other people. So no, dude, that's killer advice. So jumping forward, what were you able to take from all of those different experiences to implement building a brand? Because let's be real, like you said, yet again, with this new hobby, you're back to the greenhorn.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard. I'm not going to lie. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of, before I started all this, I wasn't very, I mean, I could run a computer, right? But I wasn't tech savvy or good with filling out a lot of paperwork, things like that. So, like, what do you start your business as? You got to get a business license. You got to get a reseller's permit. You got to figure out what kind of business. Is it going to be an LLC? Is it going to be a partnership? Is it a whatever? You got to set your stuff up with the state. And there's just a lot of stuff happening, you know. You got to get your brand logo. You got to get it copyrighted. And there was some fiascos with that. And it was just all this mud to wade through is what I like to call it. Just mud to wade through to get to the lake, you know?
Yeah.
I want to get to the lake. And I just had to keep walking through this mud.
Even when you get to the lake, there's no guarantee you're going to catch a fish, right?
100%. Yes, yes. There ain't a lot of fish. There ain't a lot of fish.
That's just to get to the lake.
Yeah. 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 And it was slow going. I mean, you've built brands and stuff. I didn't expect it to be like, you know, like, oh, I'm going to launch my brand and poof, I'm just going to get all this, you know, social media exposure and, like, I don't know, website blow up, all that. I didn't have any preconceived notion that was going to happen, but it's a slow process, especially with social media. I don't know. It's just the way it is. If you're in the right niche, you can grow really fast, and if you're not, it doesn't. It's just this weird. I don't understand the internet. I really don't. I see certain people with certain content on there that's, we're going to call it lesser content, if you will, right? Like, I just took it with my cell phone and whatever, and it grows crazy. And then you got nice guys that I know that do social media stuff, and their stuff is amazing, top notch, and they just stay stagnant. I'm like, their content is awesome. How is this not growing? I don't understand it. So I beat myself up on that, you know, watching the analytics on stuff. And I finally just had to, like, don't pay attention to it. Just do you. If people like it, they like it, and keep doing what you want to do. And that really helped me mentally working through doing the brand thing, instead of, like, I don't know, trying to people please with it, if you will. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
So
no, for sure. And dude, I'll tell you this: like, you've come a long ways, and it's been fun to watch from the outside. For anybody listening, they could check you out. What's your YouTube handle?
It's Ultimate Pursuit on YouTube.
Yeah. Just go check out his videos and go back 3 years, and then go to more of his recent shit. Your cinematography skills are changing. Your eye for artsy detail, like all that stuff I noticed about your work. Like,
well, I appreciate that.
And at a quick glance, yeah, dude. And not that your shit was bad before, to be clear, but, like, it's the little details to me that really build it together. And for the people that are listening to this, if you're considering building a brand, like, Paul said something there that I want to really drive home. Like, you got to remember why you're doing it. It's you could put, like, the most money and have the most expensive cameras and the most perfect crew and edits, and still not do shit, because it's just, that's the way it goes sometimes. It's really weird what takes and what doesn't, or when it decides to take or not take, or, you know, the on-off switch is insane with social media anymore. But that being said, if you can root yourself in why, like, and remove the expectation of the what, but the why you're doing it. Or kill the when, just remember why. Okay, I'm emphasizing why for a reason. And that's because that why is what's going to keep you going through the wading through the mud phase, through the getting to the lake and then casting it out your Rapala or your rooster tail to getting no bites and walking all the way around the lake till all of a sudden you catch the 60-inch muskie, right? Like, you're legitimately going to need to know why you're doing it. And to be honest with you, if you want to build something that lasts, it needs to be based off why anyway. Like, you need to be giving people something, like, of value. And you can't give people something if all your focus is on just when you're going to get money or when you're going to get fame and recognition. Like, none of anything that you do, Paul, or anything that I do is about what I'm going to get for it now. It's about who I can help and how I can help, right? And I think that's an important piece to building any kind of a brand, especially on social media.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I think the big thing for me, what my why is community. I think the coolest thing about all this stuff I've done, putting out content and stuff, is the community that I've built online with other people. People I would have never met. I would have never met you without the internet, And there's people that, I watch their lives for the past 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. And just that engagement with others and watching other people build brands or doing whatever they love to do in whatever space that is, I think is one of my favorite things about building a brand and having an online platform is the community behind it.
Yeah. No, I think community is cool too. And it's really cool to see, like, as you go and you grow both, I think it's interesting to see, like, who really pays attention to your shit. You started doing something that I actually took a page from note from you on this, like, hey, I'm going to do a random giveaway to people that are watching my stories now because I just want you to know I appreciate that. That is creative gold. Like, I'm not currently doing that, but you're goddamn right. When I saw that, I was like, thanks, Paul. Like, I'm going to add that to just because I respect that. I want to reward, dude, I'm a giveaway king. I try to give away as much shit as I can. But, like, I really respect creativity about it. And if you could just give back to somebody that is unexpected, like, and that just truly follows you without any sort of expectation, that's the fucking best, dude. Like, when you can just be like, hey, I just want you to know, I noticed that you've watched my reels and you do, like, almost every time I post. And I just want you to know it doesn't go unseen.
Yeah.
Here's a $100 gift card, or here's this, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of power in that. And so I think it's really cool, a community that you're building is what I'm saying, and the way that you're going about it. And it's really cool to see that come to the forefront, as you've developed it. It just goes to show, like, listening to your story, especially like how you came up, I can see that in your brand as well with you have the same tenacity just to keep adjusting and going,
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's just like those people watch everything I put on a daily basis, right? Because usually put something on there every day. And, and a lot of those people have been doing that for years, So, I mean, they're contributing just as much as anybody, probably more than anybody else. So I think those people need recognized. And I don't know. It's just, those are my people.
Those are your people. I love it. So how about for your people, how about we get into some questions?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I want to give some value here, give back, because I think anybody that listens to this is going to really appreciate your mindset. I know I sure do. And it's been really cool to hear your story. But I got to ask you the golden question, right? What is a blue-collar barbarian to you?
So I would say a blue-collar barbarian is what I would call an animal. Just that guy, gal, that just gets after it every day. And then other people are like, what is he doing? How does he do that for hours? Like when people start questioning, like how you're doing what you're doing, I think you've reached that blue collar barbarian level. When people start questioning, like, what is going on over there? Like, that's when you've made it and received that title, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, how did you get so good?
Yeah.
Why do you have so much energy?
Yeah.
Like, how long have you been doing this? No way, dude. You're way. Yeah, I would agree with you. Great answer. Going right into the second question here, what is something that you would say to people that, or suggest to people, so that their career doesn't become blah? You know, like that boring, redundant.
Yeah. Never stop having fun. I gotta, that's me. I'm a jokester. I'm always laughing. I'm always in a good mood. And no matter if I'm cleaning a toilet or putting pipe in the ground or whatever it's doing, I've got a smile on my face. Attitude is everything. And then to caveat that is never stop learning. You know, I've worked with senior people and learned stuff from them. I've learned stuff from the brand new people that been there a week. They're like, why do you guys do this instead of this? I was like,
Yeah,
that's a great idea. Why haven't we thought of that? We've worked here forever, you know? So is never stop learning from everyone, from the junior person to the senior person. You know, you don't got to do everything they say, but take a little bit with you every time you talk to somebody.
100%, dude. 100%. And then that leads right into my third question, actually, because I'm curious to see how you answer this. So, on the note of learning as you go, never stopping learning. So, how do you get into like applying for something that you don't really know much about the career? Like, how do you apply for something new to you?
So nice with the internet anymore. There's a ton of stuff you can research, but the best thing you can possibly do is to talk to somebody that does that job. If you can get a hold of somebody that, you know, your friend's uncle, or just talk to somebody that does it, because nobody knows it like somebody that does it. I that is hands down the best way to get into any other career. And then they can be like, hey, you can use them for a reference, you know. It's who you know. It really is. And they can point you in the right direction. Hey, you need to do this, this, and this. This is where I screwed up when I tried to start. You know, they already done it, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, that's a fantastic answer. And I would say, like, you could definitely look on the internet, like you're saying. But yeah, talking to people, it will also help you start to create and manifest like what it would look like to be in that position, because you got to see it before you can believe it, kind of thing, right? Seeing is believing. And then my last question, man, is where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. Well, I'm on what is it? I'm on retirement job number 3, and I'm hoping to be at retirement job number 3 in 5 years. Hopefully, this is the last retirement job. I kept thinking as I was going through that, oh, this is going to be it. Well, I think this is it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll be going through some changes at work. You know, we got our senior guy retiring, so there might be some moving around coming up. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, I hope to be fixing up my hometown in 5 years, and just it gets better every year. I've worked there this is my 10th year. Actually, here in a few days is my 10th year at work. So nice. Big milestone for me. And I've seen a lot of change in that 10 years, and I'd like to see that just keep growing, and then make our little community just the best it can be. And that's honestly where my heart is with what I do.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. The world needs more people like you that think about it in those terms, dude. They really do. Man, I've really enjoyed this conversation, dude. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. You have no idea. I respect you greatly, dude. I love everything you've been doing. but we're at that part in the show where I got to ask for, we're at that closing thoughts part. So one thing I like to do is leave our audience with a quote or a book suggestion, anything that you've utilized to help. I want to keep their mental sword sharp.
Oh. So I'm not a big reader. It's not my thing. I'm too ADD for that. I'm a high energy guy. Big thing I live by: desire for more. That's just something I say to myself all the time. Desire for more. Desire for more. It's just something I use. Hunting, work, family. It's just my little catchphrase I say to myself, I guess, when I need it.
Yeah. Desire for more. I can dig that. Where can people check you out, dude? Give them your socials. Give me all the goods here.
Okay, so we've got a Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. It's all under Ultimate Pursuit. So if you search that up, it'll be on there. Yep, we do some merch sales and do YouTube channel and stuff like that, and just share our adventures on the mountain. And yeah.
Hell yeah. So go check him out at Ultimate Pursuit, right? On Instagram and YouTube, Facebook. Check Paul out. Buy his swag. He's got some cool merch. But very least, like, subscribe, comment on his videos, drive some traction for him. Just help our buddy out here. You guys will appreciate his artistic taste. Like I told you, it's great. And dude, I love seeing it. And congratulations on your 10 years, first of all. And secondly, congratulations on building a brand that's sticking and finding meaning in what you do and not losing the desire for more, as you said. Like, I fucking love that, dude. I respect it. And I just want you to know I see you, man. I see you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see you win, because that's what you're going to do. Like, that's just in your character. So, to our audience, thank you so much for listening to me and Paul chat today. I know you're going to take something, so like, subscribe, follow along on both of us. Please share the show with somebody that needs the desire for more. All right?
Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. And we'll see you guys on the next one.